Hi, guys. All right. And let's see, 1 second. Where is this thing? There we go. All right. Okay. We'll get there, guys. We'll get there. All right. All right. Hi, everybody. Oh, this thing's a little too big for this. Sorry, TikTok. I'll have a better setup next time. The microphone's a little annoying. All right. There we go. All right. How's the sound everywhere? Sounds good on YouTube. Very good. You want to become a ger? Okay. Go to a local shul, local Orthodox shul. Speak to the rabbi there. We'll see if I have any energy. Maybe we'll do some questions too today. We're just trying to get to the shul, guys. How's the sound on the app, the mesh? Baruch, good to see you. App and YouTube is good. All right, very good. All right. B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach, shiur Torah, bruchim habayim. We are back, Baruch Hashem, after the surgery. B'ezrat Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu helped us and continues to help us. B'ezrat Hashem will give all of us refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf. Tonight's shiur is going to be for the refuah shlema and hatzlacha rabba for Rabbi Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Sarah bat Levana, Ovadia ben Levana, Yosef ben Levana, Avi Mori David ben Esriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Jora, and B'ezrat Hashem to all of us who give us a refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf. And to thank Hashem for giving us the energy, the ability, the strength to come back and learn again with you guys, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. So, without, I don't know how much we have, so we're going to get right to it. Anyone that wants to donate can go to our website at bezrathashem.org. There's supposed to be a video coming out either today or tomorrow of some of the amazing things that Baruch Hashem we did over the last couple of days with your donations. For those fortunate among you that donated to the Purim campaign, you could literally see your merits go up in front of your eyes. I think we're the only organization that continuously does it, where you see that the donations not only or a mitzvah for anyone to donate, but you see there's 500 avrechim and bachurim that learned Torah for your merits during Purim in several locations in Tveria. We also had something in Netanya. I just don't have the pictures yet. But with 500 bachurim learning Torah during this time to help all of those that supported Be'ezrat Hashem and donated for them, and each one of them got money to buy food for their families during Purim. And you see our own dear Rosh Kolel, Rav Sharvit, Rav Shlomo Sharvit, Tzaddik, giving each one of them a chizuk, shiur in each place that we did it. And Baruch Hashem, it's truly amazing how much the organization does, whether it's in the US or in America, in Israel, or it's other places. Baruch Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us the ability to reach the four corners of the world, and Be'ezrat Hashem, this is just the beginning. There's, Baruch Hashem, a lot more that we want to do, and Be'ezrat Hashem will have the ability to do it. So anyone that wants to continuously support us could donate on the website. You could also donate cryptocurrency. You could donate, different currencies. You could donate checks. There's all types of ways to donate and be generous to help Am Yisrael get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, get the whole world to recognize the hand of the Creator. Now, one of the things that motivated me to overcome any obstacle that we had today, to come back a little earlier than I anticipated and give the shiur, is because I see that in the last few weeks that we haven't been able to learn together with you guys. The amount of difficulties that people have been sending, I haven't been able to answer everybody's questions and issues, unfortunately. But I see that the amount of issues that people are having just continues to come in, whether it's during a good economy, a bad economy. It doesn't really make a difference. People's problems continue to rise. And the truth is, Rabotai, is that difficulty is part of everybody's life. I can assure you that the surgery and whatever else I deal with, I wouldn't even want on my enemies. But the truth is that difficulty is part of everybody's life. Now, the question that I think everybody is supposed to have is that when you learn Shiurei Torah, from time to time, either I myself or other rabbis, give, stories about tzaddikim that have dealt with their own difficulties in the past, and even tzaddikim of our generation that have dealt with difficulties. And it really seems like they're going through it with a smile, despite the difficulty. And the question is, what do they do? What do they do to accept the heavenly judgment with a smile, despite the fact that it hurts? Regardless of what the difficulty is, it always hurts. So what do these tzaddikim do to go through their difficulties with a smile? Now, Rabbi Elimelech of Lejensk, in our series over here, based on the Tzeitil Katan, has really opened our eyes to the real world of Chassidut and how they think and what they do. He continues to open our eyes with every single page, with every single line, especially if you've noticed when we look at the small details and not just glance over it or read over it just to say we read another book. Many times a person, that learns Torah, whether it's Musar or it's the Parasha, or whatever, or Gemara, whatever they're learning, many times people look at it like almost like a checklist where they just want to tell themselves that they completed another book. So they put a check next to it. Yes, I finished this book, and I finished that book, and I finished this book. And the question always has to come up is, what did the book do for you? Okay, so you read the book, but what did the book actually do for you? Did you apply any of it to your life? Did it do anything for you? Other than maybe give you a little bit of inspiration for a moment? Has anything changed? And many times, really, people go through different books, and not much changes, at least nothing long term. There's a lot of things that perhaps they learned along the way, and perhaps they got inspired or were informed, but not much really changed. Same concept goes with shiurim. I'd say it always boggles my mind when people ask me different questions, especially people that we have a history with, we've helped throughout the years through difficult times, and I tell them to go and watch another series that we've made over the years, and say, well, yeah, but I watched that already. Well, obviously, I know you watched it already, or I assume you've watched it already. If I know you for 2, 4, 5, 6, 10 years, I assume that you've watched it, and I still recommended it, despite the fact that I know that you've watched it, because apparently you haven't applied that shiur to your life. You haven't applied that series to your life, because had you applied it to your life, things would be different. Not necessarily the problems would be different, but your perspective would be different. And many times when it comes to books, you go to people's houses and you see, Jewish people have a library of books, some more, some less, and that's actually one of the things that I missed the most in the last few weeks, is being away from my study, being away from my office with, Baruch Hashem, all my books, all my friends that I missed a whole lot. It took some with me, but you can't take your whole library with you. Where even if you don't read all of them, you can't read all of them, it's like you feel like they're part of you, and you want them next to you. And the thing is, though, is that when you go to a Jewish person's house, you'll see books. And of course, you assume that this person has read some of these books, if not all of them. But really, you're only going to know how much they actually applied to their life based on their behavior during difficult times. Because everyone can have a smile during easy times, during good times, where there's a celebration, there is a good things happening. Everyone can have a smile during that time, especially if they know that picture is going to go on some type of social media, or it's going to be sent to somebody that's important to them. Everybody can have that fake smile. But there's this organization that I'm familiar with, where they have these monthly events. It's literally like one of the most bizarre organizations I've ever met. And don't ask me the name. They have these events, and I never go to them. I've gone to a few in past years, but I stopped going to them after I saw how fake it is. Where it's like literally the whole event, the whole purpose of the event is just to take pictures. They have some people there. They talk. They chit chat. They say a couple of things. Nobody really listens. No one really cares. The main thing that everybody cares about is the pictures at the end. The pictures at the end, oh, you're smiling, maybe it's going to go in the paper, maybe it's going to go on the website, maybe it's going to go on some, news article that we were there. And it's literally the most bizarre thing in the world. I don't really understand the purpose of it, but aside from just telling people that you're doing something, even though you're really not. So sometimes people's libraries are the same concept. Sometimes people's Judaism is the same thing. Sometimes people's Torah is the same thing. They have these books. They have these shiurim. They listen to them in their car. They listen to them on their phone. They hear these stories. Maybe they're going to remember them long enough to tell somebody else one of the stories. But the truth be told, nothing inside actually changed. Nothing changed. The behavior didn't change. The anger didn't go away. The arrogance is not affected in any way. It's still there. And the second that there's a problem, already you have all of these doubts and these heretical thoughts. So what happened? What happened? So you see the main difference between the tzaddikim, and I don't just mean the tzaddikim that you hear stories about. I mean people that you could probably, could be your next door neighbor, could be your local rabbi, could be an avrech that's 20 years old, that you don't even know he's even somebody special. It could be anybody. But the main difference between the tzaddikim those that cleave themselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and pretty much everyone else is that way they deal with problems, the way that they deal with the difficulties in life, where it seems like even though they have problems, and sometimes even more than others, they go through them with a smile. They go through them without losing themselves, without doubting Hashem, accepting the judgment of heaven, with a full heart, without questioning why, like these heretical questions that are so common in the world today. Where was God during the Holocaust? Where was God during October 7th? All these stupid things that people say when they're ignorant. And I call them stupid because the more you know about Hashem, the more stupid it is to ask such questions, because the answers are clearly in the Torah. But nonetheless, the problems that people deal with are very much real. And the issues that people deal with, whether it's with their children or their spouse or their job or their health or their money or whatever it is, are very much there. And if you go to those same people that you see on podcasts and people that you see talking and chit-chatting in some type of group event at the shul, or people you see that are talking a lot after shul with each other, trying to figure out who has the solution. The truth is, all of these solutions are probably in their house on their shelves. They're probably in one of these lectures that they watch. They're probably in their pocket because they have, I'm assuming they have the Be'ezrat Hashem app or the AI Rabbi app, and if they don't, I don't know what they're doing in this world without having such a resource so easily available to you. All of these things are available to us. Literally, the key to all of your problems is readily available to you for free, but yet people go through the motion without having the smallest concept of what to do during the moment of pain. And Tzeitil Katan has widened our eyes to see the small details in his words that are literally hidden in plain sight, to show us how we're supposed to have the proper perspective to see the divine hand that sometimes feels like it's hitting us, feels like it's pinching us, feels like it's hurting us, but in reality, we're missing out on the opportunity to learn. We're missing out on the opportunity to accept what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has in store for us, which is for our benefit. So, the section number 14 in the Tzeitil Katan, it's something that we glanced over a little bit some time ago when the last year that we did in this series, but we're going to go a little deeper in it, but we're going to go in a little bit of a different direction. Perhaps even go and see some of the things that we should have learned in Megillat Esther. In Purim, we just read the Megillah as Am Yisrael. Everyone is obligated to listen to the Megillah. If you can't read so yourself, you obviously go to shul, you go and hire somebody to come read it for you, whatever it is. You have to read it twice, but that's already behind us. The key is that most people that hear the Megillah, they're fulfilling the mitzvah, but they're not learning during that time. They're just fulfilling the mitzvah of hearing it, which is the mitzvah, to hear it. Studying it, learning from it, applying the lessons from it, that's really what we're supposed to do before and after. It's not for nothing that they included the Megillah as part of the Tanakh. So perhaps we'll go into some details of the story that we were supposed to learn during these last few days, and Be'ezrat Hashem apply it to what's going on here. Now, the Tzeitil Katan, Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhensk, is giving us the concluding guidance to this whole monumental work. Now, of course, we still have much to go, but in essence, he's giving us a significant guidance here that really needs to be applied throughout the entire Sefer, not just at the end, and that's why he's giving it here in the middle. And he's saying the follows: be extremely careful to review this Tzeitil Katan at least once a day. Translate each word into your own language Make it inviolable practice to study chapter 16 of the Reshit Chokhmah before marital relations, as well as the practices of the Arizal. If time permits, you should read chapter 17 of the Reshit Chokhmah as well, and consider this an inviolable rule. Here he's giving us something that he hasn't really said before. He's telling us this is a rule of thumb. This is, immovable. This is an absolute must. If you're going to take this monumental work of Chassidut, monumental work of Judaism, monumental work of the Torah, and actually do something with it and not make it just like another one of the many lectures that you've watched, or just like one of the many different books that are in your library. If you're going to do something different with this, meaning if you're going to make something out of it, then you have to comply with this rule. What is this rule? First and foremost, you have to review. He is saying here, review it once a day. What does it mean to review it once a day? Why? Where did we hear this before? And if you remember the last lecture, about a month or two ago, I said that this is the same thing that the Ramban, Nachmanides, said to his son in the Igeret HaRamban, that you have to review this every day. Why? Why review? Why do we need to review this so often? I mean, it's not one of the parashot of the Torah. It's not a sgula, like some people do the sgula of Parashat Haman, which is the segment of the Torah that talks about when Am Yisrael received the manna bread from heaven, and it's a person that reads it every day. It's a sages say that it's a sgula to receive better sustenance, better parnasah, and certainly it's something that that could work if you know what you're doing, if you know not only what to read, but you read it with kavanah and you really believe what it says and not just go through the motion. Certainly it's effective. But here, the Tzeitil Katan is telling us this Tzeitil Katan, this Rabbi Elimelech, this book over here, I want you to review it. I want you to review it every day. Why? I mean, so I remember it by heart? What good is it going to do for me if I remember it by heart? I mean, there's some people that are blessed with a good memory and they remember different things by heart. Some people waste their memory and they're blessing by just simply remembering stupid things and useless things by heart, like people's phone numbers and addresses and names, complete misuse of the gift that Hashem gave them. And some people remember parts of the Torah by heart, which is certainly a invaluable thing. If you could remember the entire Torah, or at the very parts of the Torah, parasha, Gemara, anything that you can remember by heart is certainly very valuable. But it's even more valuable when you understand what you're remembering. If you're just remembering it and you're just going through the motions, like at some point, most people remember big segments of the prayer by heart because you pray as a Jew, you pray 3 times a day. It's the same prayer every day, with the exception of the Rosh Chodesh. There's an addition. Shabbat there's some additions. The holidays there's some different prayers, but generally speaking, it's the prayer itself throughout the rest of the year is the same. So naturally, a person, even if they're starting out in their 20s and 30s and 40s, and they don't even know how to read, if they keep going through the motions, if they still go to the shul and pray every single day, they'll find themselves that a few years later, they'll remember big parts of the prayer by heart. But that's not going to help you have more kavanah, more meaning in your prayers. You remembering them by heart is not going to it's not going to help you, have a more meaningful prayer. It may help you, read it with much more ease. It's going to be smoother. It's going to be easier for you to pray. It's going to be easier for you to keep up with the Keilah, especially if they pray fast. So if you remember it by heart, you're also going to be able to pray faster. But as far as having a extraordinary prayer where you're brought to tears, remembering by heart is never going to help you. In fact, sometimes it could hurt you. So if anyone ever saw the video that I publicized some years ago of the Klosenberger Rebbe praying his regular mincha prayer that he prayed every day. We're not talking about Yom Kippur prayer. We're not talking about a special fast or no. We're talking about just a regular everyday prayer that the Klausenberger Rebbe, the Rebbe Mitzantz, used to pray, and the amount of crying and tears that went into that prayer. I wish we were able to pray like that on Yom Kippur, but he prayed like this every day. Now, surely he knew the prayer by heart, but that's not what helped him have that extraordinary kavanah. So yes, there is a value to learning prayer by heart, but it's not the value of kavanah. It's not the value of meaning. Same thing with learning parts of the Torah. There's this extraordinary value to remembering parts of the Torah by heart, remembering the pages, remembering where certain things are. People ask you questions. Certainly, there's a lot of value there, but it's not going to connect you to Hashem in a deeper way. It's not going to connect you in a deeper way. What's going to connect you in a deeper way is actually understanding what you're actually reading and taking the initiative to apply that to your life. Now, understanding what you're reading takes a little bit of time to understand every word, to understand every segment, and so on. And this is an ongoing thing that you go on throughout your entire life, because every time you read it, you understand more and more. You build on that foundation. But the applying to your life is even more so something that is going to take place over stages of your life based on how much you have fixed, how much you have repaired in your neshama. Because the high-level repair is inconsequential to you when you're still in the first grade level of repair, when you're still working on your arrogance or your anger issues. It's irrelevant to you to discuss the arrogance that's of higher level, or the different issues that's of higher level. So a person that wants to apply these teachings to their life has to know that there is no such thing as I read this book, check mark. There is no such thing as watching a lecture that's a meaningful, significant lecture of Torah that has real sources, that has real meaning, and saying, okay, I have a check mark next to it, I finished it. No, because the Torah is a never-ending ocean that continues to grow with you. And the more you practice, the more you delve into it, as the Mishnah in Masechet Avot says, afochba v'afochba dekulaba. Delve into it and delve into it, because everything is in it. And the confusion that people perhaps sometimes think is that, yes, everything is in it, it's just I didn't get there yet. I read this book and this Masechet and that Masechet. Perhaps that other information is in the Kabbalah, or is in the Yerushalmi, or is in the this, or it's in the that. No. Everything is in it means everything is in it wherever you are in the Torah, even if you are still in Parashat Bereshit of the Torah. You just started. Every single detail of every single thing you'll ever need to know is in there. The books you have are sufficient, assuming that they're kosher, good books, they're Torah books, to teach you an endless amount of knowledge beyond what you have right now, even if you've read them already. And when a person starts treating their Torah like a never-ending ocean, there's no such thing as, I've watched this already, I've read this already, as if you know already the meanings of everything that you can put. I mean, there are certainly many stories of different chachamim that talked about how they read certain books like the Reshit Chochmah or Sharet Tshuva or the Shas, of course, hundreds and hundreds of times. Why would you read the same thing hundreds of times? I mean, obviously they understood it the first time to a certain extent, second time to a certain extent even more, third time, okay, so let's say it took them 10 times to understand the book. Why read it 100 times? How much more can you understand it? Endless amount of times. Endless amount of times. So even if a person literally studied any part of the Torah, whether it be the extraordinary Chumash, Tanakh, Gemara, the huge works of the Torah, the written Torah and the oral Torah, or the parts of the oral Torah like the smaller books, smaller works, whether it be the Sharet Tshuva or the Tzeitil Katan, or even the Igeret Ramban, a simple letter, at least in comparison to what it would seem like. You study that endless times. If you study it properly, literally every single time there will be something new that you learn from it. So the Tzeitil Katan is not telling us, I want you to study this and review it at least once a day because you're tasked with memorizing it. Memorizing it is not going to do you that much. It's not going to do you that much good. What's going to do you good is if each time you review it, you decide to take another piece, and apply that today. And the next day, another piece, and apply that today. And the next day, another piece. Oh no, I didn't do the last one better. Okay, so I'm going to try to take 2 pieces. And each time, another chip at the great mountain. You chip another piece. There's no end to this mountain. But each time, a little bit more, and applying it to your own language is not only referring to reading it in your first language, whether it be English or Hebrew or Yiddish or whatever other language you speak, but rather applying it to your language, meaning the language of your heart. How does the mechanism of your neshama work? How do you apply these Torah foundations to your life? Whether you be a businessman or a housewife or a child that's growing into the great world, or you're a soldier in an army in the middle of a war, or whatever you are, how are you going to apply all of these extraordinary teachings into that position that you are in life at that moment? And then again, sometime down the road, life changes. You're no longer a business person. You perhaps are now a person that's a employee at a simple shop because life has changed. Or perhaps now you went from being a simple employee to now you're a CEO of a great company. Or now you went from being a single woman looking for a husband to a married woman with 4 kids driving you crazy, and you're trying to just keep them at bay. And then you are now an older mother that now is raising older kids and trying to make sure that they all married the right people. And then you have a different life where you're struggling with money. Then other times you're struggling with giving tzedakah to the right places. So life itself is dynamic and it keeps changing. And in essence, translating this in any part of the Torah into your own language is not just referring to translating into your mother tongue that you could actually speak the language, but rather it's translating it into the language that you need spoken to you at that moment, into the words that you need to apply to your life at that moment of your life, because that moment of your life is not the same as the moment as when you first heard it and you first read it a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And if a person starts looking at the Torah from that perspective, they'll realize that their endless search for more information somewhere else is literally a wasted effort, because everything you need is in front of you. As Moshe Rabbeinu told us in Sefer Dvarim, "Bepicha ubilvavcha la'asoto." It's in your mouth, it's in your heart to do it. The Torah is in you. If you read the Torah, you learn the Torah, it's there. You just have to know how to use it. And the Tzeitil Katan is telling us, make sure that this review is stamped in your heart, not just for the Tzeitil Katan, but for the entire aspect of the Torah, the entire part of the Torah. You have to constantly go and delve into it deeper and deeper. Don't be one of these people that, like in the secular world, where people, go through books, they're impressed with each other, and how, oh yeah, he reads a book a week, he reads a book a day, oh yeah, he read 500 books. None of that is impressive. Why? Because if you read 500 books and you're still the same person, obviously the books did nothing for you. All you have is check marks, and you have a bunch of papers in your house. They're probably going to sell in some garage sale or throw them out. But with Torah, whether you have 5 books or 500 books, when it's Torah, it's literally you have endless information from above available to you to use at any given time, no matter how many times you've read it and studied it. Why? Because there's more information in there that you have not applied to your life. And today, in the generation of knowledge that we have, where unlike Dora De'ah, generation of knowledge of Mount Sinai, where literally they were given the knowledge of everything you can possibly have in this physical world, because we're limited. We're not able to have the knowledge that's we would have after 120. The Torah, the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat says that the Torah that we got at Mount Sinai is the essence of the Torah. It's the essence of the Torah. It's not the entire Torah. It's the essence of the Torah. The whole Torah we're not able to consume in this world. Only Moshe Rabbeinu knew the real Torah. The essence of the Torah is what we're able to handle. And the essence of the Torah, even after all of the exile and the pogroms and the inquisitions and the burnings of thousands and thousands of Jewish books throughout the years and the lost and everything else, we still literally have millions of Jewish books, millions of Torah books out there, different books that you can learn endless amount of information about the divine, about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, about His world, about His Torah, about life. Millions of books that if you studied from day to night, 24 hours a day for 1,000 years, you wouldn't be able to consume all of the books that we still have. And that's just the essence of the Torah. So, the books that we have, if we treat them like it's a check mark, like people do in a secular world, and they're impressed with each other of how this guy read, 5 books a week, and 10 books a week, and 500 books, and 1,000 books, and in reality, all that you were able to retain is maybe, at the best case scenario, 100% of some of the information. Or it's a person that studies Torah knowing that they're entering an endless ocean where no matter how many times they review and they read and reread, there's always going to be more that they're going to discover. It's an endless treasure chest. So the Tzeitil Katan is in essence preparing us not just for the Tzeitil Katan that requires a daily review, but rather an attitude towards the entire Torah as a whole. That if you do not review it every single day, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. Many times people ask me, what book do you think I should read next? And the funny thing is that I know that these people already have plenty of books in their houses they haven't read. And even if they read, they haven't read them well enough. Why? Because you'd have different questions. You'd have different questions if you really consume the knowledge that you have at your fingertips. I'm not saying I'm not against buying more books. By all means, buy 1,000,000 books. But the point is that don't think for a moment that if you read the book from cover to cover, you've completed it. The Torah doesn't work that way. It's not a novel, it's not a storybook that ends, where it has the beginning, the climax, and the end, happy end, sad end, all irrelevant, all inconsequential to your actual life. Or some guy giving you a recycled type of self-help business book that just simply recycles old ideas with new words. No, the Torah has invaluable, endless lessons that you can read 1,000 times and still get something new out of them. And if a person goes into the Torah with the right attitude, with the right perspective, eliminating their ego, eliminating their gaiva, that tells them, no, I already completed this book. I already did this. Making them realize that a Talmid Chacham, the greatest Talmid Chacham of any generation, is still called a Talmid Chacham. A Talmid Chacham literally means a smart student. Smart student. We translate it as Torah scholar, but
The literal meaning is smart student. Why student? He's a great rabbi. He's the Gedol Ador. He's Rav Ovadia. He's Rav Kanievsky. He's the Steipler Gaon. He's the Vilna Gaon. He's the Arizal, but he's still called a Talmid Chacham. Why? Because if he's a real Torah scholar, he's always going to be a Talmid. He's always going to be learning more. And just like Moshe Rabbeinu told us in the Torah is not over the mountains or across the ocean. It's in front of you. It's in front of you. The stuff that you have in front of you, the lecture you have in front of you, the series you've already watched, the books you've already read, the parasha that you think you know. The information is there. If you only treated it with the right perspective, by reviewing it over and over again with the same passion, with the same excitement and dedication each and every time, surely you will find another diamond, bigger than any diamond that you have found before. Because unlike other things where you study them and from time to time you'll find new nuggets here and there that are interesting, that are mentally stimulating, in the Torah, it's different. Every new diamond is bigger than the last, meaning the diamonds that you find as you go deeper get bigger, not smaller. Unlike the physical world where you keep digging, eventually you find the big stuff, and then all you have to do is, just get whatever is left, all the small stuff that's left. The Torah is the exact opposite. The deeper you go into it, the greater the diamonds, the greater the treasure. What you thought was big when you first encountered it is literally almost nothing in comparison to the stuff you will find as you go deeper in. So the Tzeitik Katan starts already with an attitude change everyone has to have when they're learning Torah. The review of every day is not for the sake of memory. The translation of things to your language is not for the sake of translating it to your mother tongue, but rather the deeper meaning is in essence telling us we have to have an attitude change to realize that when we're dealing with the divine, when we're dealing with the word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whether it's directly on the 5 books of Moses or it's through his sages, through the oral Torah, the sages of 2,000 years ago, the sages of now and 100 years ago, whatever it is. Every generation has the Moshe and Aaron and the 70 elders. That's the reason why when the Torah says, the Mishnah in Masechet Avot specifically talks about it, and the Gemara speaks about it, what were the names of the elders that came with Moshe Rabbeinu? You have Moshe, you have Aaron, you have Yeshua ben Nun, you have Pinchas, you have all these great people. But who are the 70 elders? What are their names? There's no names. Why are there no names? Because if there was some arrogant person that thinks, listen, if Moshe Rabbeinu would tell me to keep 2 Yom Tovs in the exile, I'll do it. But Moshe Rabbeinu never said it. He's not here. If Aaron Cohen said it, I'll listen, but he's not here. If you give me somebody as great Moshe Rabbeinu, well, hold on a second. But how do you know that your rabbi, Talmid Chacham, dedicates his life to Torah, dedicates his life to connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's not like one of the elders? How do you know he's not like one of them? That's the reason why they were unnamed. So the arrogant among us that say, if Moshe Rabbeinu told me, if Aaron Cohen told me, if Yeshua ben Nun told me, if Pinchas told me, then I'd listen. No. But also there was the 70 elders. What about them? They were not named. So how do you know that the Talmid Chacham of this generation is not like them? The point being is, Rabotai, when a person goes into the Torah with ga'ava, with arrogance, with a know-it-all attitude, with a learning for the sake of debating and showing their knowledge, or the knowledge they think they have, they've already missed the whole point. The Tzeitik Katan is giving us critical rules of Torah, that certainly we need to apply to the Tzeitik Katan, but also for across the whole spectrum of the Torah. The review is daily. Not once a week, not when you get a chance, not when you have time. It's daily. Every single day you have to go through the Torah more and more and more. The stuff you've read, the stuff you haven't read. In so many words, consume as much information from the Torah as you possibly can, as possibly as you get your hands on. And the second thing is, try little by little to translate it into the language that you need to speak, into the life that you're living, the situation that you're in. Then, a person has to understand that the yetzer is going to try to convince you everything he possibly can to stop you. He's going to try to convince you that you don't have time. He's going to try to convince you that you already did it. You need something new. You need a new lecture, a new book, a new rabbi, a new this, a new that. Just to get you away from where you're supposed to be. And unfortunately, one of the painful things you see in the failure of people is when they fall for the yetzer's trap and they actually believe in it. They need something new. No, I already did this already. I did this for a few years. Now I need something new. No, you don't understand. If you think you need something new, that means you haven't even done what you think you did. Why? Because you don't even have the basic foundational tool to understand what Torah is. The yetzer convince you that you need something else to get you off of the direction. Why? To get you someplace else. He's not going to tell you, go this way, straight to hell. No. He's going to try to tell you, no, there's a different chamber. There's a different place. There's different options. There's nicer things over here. He's going to try to get you just simply to agree to get off of the path that's succeeding. Why? Because the second you agree to veer off the path of success, that's it, he's got you. Little by little, he'll get you into first class ticket to Gehenom. Why? Because just like the Sharet Tshuva, Rabbi Yonah says, the Yetzirah, I'm sorry, not Sharet Tshuva, the Chovot HaLevavot. The Chovot HaLevavot says 1,000 years ago, Rabbeinu Bechaye, the Yetzirah is awake on you and you're sleeping on it. You think the yetzer is only coming to you with the obvious. He's coming to you with a new commercial on TV or on the phone, or he's coming to you with some coworker, or he's coming to you with some money scheme. So you think, oh, I got it. I'm ready for the yetzer. I'm ready for him. I'm ready, because you're looking at all these places. You're asleep, my friend. Why? You think the yetzer is going to go to you where you think he's coming? Yetzer is coming to you in all the possible ways. You're asleep and he's awake. So, the Tzedek Katan is in essence telling us the perspective change that's necessary now that we've gotten to the 14th section of this book is an absolute necessity if we're going to make anything out of it. Furthermore, in all of the problems that people deal with in life, the tools that are at our disposal are not being utilized. It's like having the greatest weapons in the world, the greatest talents in the world, but fighting with politics, fighting with tweets, fighting with news articles. Sort of like how they fight in the world today of, and what's happening today. Instead of fighting with weapons, they fight with tweets. Oh, he tweeted this. He wrote an article about that. Unfortunately, sometimes people fight their problems like this, where they have the tools, but they're not utilizing them. And here the Tzedek Katan is saying, study chapter 16 of the Reshit Chochmah before marital relations, as well as the practices of the Arizal. What is this chapter 16? For those of you that have been watching us for some time, and you merited to study with us the Igeret HaKodesh of the Ramban, the whole series that we did about Jewish intimacy, very high-level Kabbalistic work that has fundamental lessons that are necessary for every single human being, if they could so apply the ones that they could understand. There are certainly high-level things in there that I even say in the lectures are not relevant to the vast majority of people. But there are lessons in there, fundamental lessons in there that are applicable and to every single person, whether you're a teenager and you haven't even gotten married yet, and you just simply need to know how to treat your body, treat the person you want to marry in the future, or it's people that are newly married or people that have been married for a long time. The Igeret HaKodesh has an enormous amount of information in there of how to truly sanctify yourself. Now, even though the issue at hand is in essence talking about intimacy, anyone that watched the series realizes that the act itself is very, very small part of what's discussed in the book. There's an enormous amount of information given in preparation, before, after, the mindset, the diet, what to consume, how to consume, the thought process. There's a lot of information in there. Person that watches this particular series, especially if they read the book alongside it, could transform their life tremendously. Whether they're married or not is irrelevant. Why? Because it's in essence teaching you how to sanctify yourself. And that's in essence what the Tzeitik Katan is highlighting here, to go to the Reshit Chokhmah that talks about one part of what we discussed in the Igeret HaKodesh. And we actually went over that part, the Reshit Chokhmah part that he's referring to, chapter 16 and 17. Those were some of the things we highlighted in the series as well. And the big part, big takeaway that you get out of what the Reshit Chokhmah wrote there is that the goal of intimacy is not what the filthy media has been brainwashing people to think. It's not what the yetzer wants you to think. It's not what your animal instincts think. But rather the goal of intimacy is to sanctify yourself. It's another opportunity to become holy. In fact, as the Ramban himself says, and countless sources that are mentioned in the series, the highest level of sanctification, of holiness, can be achieved through intimacy. Now, of course, if a person doesn't study Torah, doesn't do anything else that's the Ramban is talking about, they're never even going to understand what the word intimacy means, needless to say, holy means. But the goal of what the Tzeitik Katan is mentioning here, highlighting here, in essence what was discussed in the Igeret HaKodesh, is to use intimacy as an opportunity to become holy. How can someone become holy? Of course, if you watch the series, you'll understand, but it'll take time. But to shorten it a little bit, is the same concept like we just discussed. It's a perspective change. It's looking at things differently. First, as he mentions, chapter 17 also needs to be read. Chapter 17, if you see over there, in the Reshit Chokhmah, is talking about how a person has to stay away from wasting seed and all of the immorality. So on one hand, he's talking about sanctifying yourself. On the other hand, he's giving us the very, very scary warnings of immorality, wasting seed, immodesty, promiscuity, all the filth running rampant in the streets today, where literally you go to a place and you're not even sure if you went to the zoo or you went to a store to buy milk. The way people carry themselves today, the way they dress, it's mamash disgusting. You want to vomit. You go to a zoo and you're not sure if the animals are outside of the cage or inside the cage. The way people behave, the way they dress. Here, the Tzedek Katan is telling us, you want to sanctify yourself? Good. You also have to know that in order to sanctify yourself, you have to stay away from all the filth. If you're still walking around immodest, if you're still walking around with a wig longer than the exile, if you're still walking around with clothes that are so tight, people know what your organs look like even, if you're spending half your morning looking at yourself in the mirror just to make sure that you have the right expression on your face, if you care about what Carlos and Steve are going to say at your job about how you look every day, then being holy, unfortunately, is not in the cards. Why? You're missing the point. You're missing the point. Now here, if a person thinks about it enough, they think, wait a minute. The last thing that the secular world thinks of, especially in the, idolatrous world that has turned intimacy into something that's filthy. The last thing they think of is holiness and intimacy in the same sentence, which is the exact opposite of what the Torah says. Intimacy can be the way a person can reach the highest level of holiness, if you know how to behave. And I'm not just talking about the act itself, we're talking about everything that comes before, during, and after the life. But in order for that to ever be achieved, a person has to already know staying away from the filth is a prerequisite. That means you want to have any chance at holiness, you want to have any chance of having holy kids, you want any chance of your kids being holy, you want to have any chance of your husband being holy, you have to stay away from all the stuff that represents unholiness. Watching television shows and movies and YouTube shows and whatever, all types of things that talk, that show people with no arms, no legs, and nothing covering their bodies, and highlighting their different body parts. All that stuff has to go. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't be in the world and do business and do all types of things, but you have to know where to look and where not to look. You have to know where to spend your energy and where not to. So, Rabbi Elimelech is telling us, take a look at this chapter, because that's going to give you an insight about how you can sanctify even the most intimate motions, even in the most intimate moments of your life, which require you to pay attention to the smallest details when it comes to things that are unholy. Now, why is this relevant to every single person, even a person that's not perhaps ready to go that far yet? Because when you're dealing with trouble in your life, you're dealing with difficulties in your life, it's very common for a person to feel like they're alone. It's very common for a person to feel like God is not with them, like no one's helping them. But the truth is Hashem is always with us. The question is whether you have kicked him out of your life or you're not paying attention to where he is. Because if you pay attention, you'll see him everywhere. For example, I said we're going to talk a little bit about Purim. In hindsight, everyone knows the story, everything worked out. It's the only book in the Tanakh where the name of Hashem does not appear. But that's because just like the Megillat Esther also translates to the Esther translates to hidden, that Hashem was hidden. But in reality, when a person pays attention to the many details that are mentioned in the Megillah, they're not for the sake of telling us a story. They're for the sake of teaching us how Hashem hides his endless impact in every small detail. In the beginning of the Megillah, we hear about a party. And we see already from the beginning that all of this had to have happened in order for the great rescue to happen. Now, of course, had Am Yisrael listened to Mordechai, this whole thing wouldn't have happened. Now, even though some Chachamim say that there's a part of the reason of why Hashem allowed this whole thing to happen and the decree that nearly annihilated all of Am Yisrael was because of them going to the party and celebrating with the Goyim. Some Chachamim say that this also, part of the reason was because of what happened at the time of Nebuchadnezzar. That's why he's mentioned in the beginning of the Megillah, where Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were the ones that jumped into the fire and were not willing to bow to the statue of Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel fled, with permission from Nebuchadnezzar, because Nebuchadnezzar literally turned Daniel into a deity. And he knew that Daniel is not going to bow to the statue, but then he would have to kill him, and he doesn't want to kill his own God. So he allowed him to flee. But still, what about the rest of the people? Unfortunately, the rest of the people bowed. Didn't jump into the fire. So some say that perhaps that's the reason why Hashem brought this whole thing. Either way, point is that it all starts with a party. The Donald Trump of the day, the powerful person of the day, has a party, celebrating. What is he celebrating? He's celebrating the fact that the Bet HaMikdash was not built according to his calculation, which he concludes with the fact that if it was not built according to his calculation in this amount of time, that means that he is going to rule the world forever. And therefore, his whole party is about the fact that he's going to rule. He's celebrating with the Bigdei Kehuna. He takes a bunch of different things from the Bet HaMikdash, celebrates them. So in so many words, he is celebrating the destruction of Am Yisrael. For Jewish people to go and celebrate that, obviously, is ridiculous. But now people say, yeah, but listen, I understand, but you have to, he's the king. If we don't go, it looks bad for our community. Maybe he's gonna, put past bad decrees, bad this, bad that. Mordechai says, no, we can't go. We can't go to this party. This is a Chilul Hashem. This is not what we're supposed to do. And if there was other rabbis, other tzaddikim that would have supported Mordechai, perhaps the whole thing wouldn't have happened. But instead, we see that Mordechai is the only one that is telling people that you're not allowed to go to this party. He's the only one that's telling people this is against the Torah. Meaning that the other rabbis of the generation, the other leaders of the generation, not only are they saying to people, listen, you know what? It's the king after all. Maybe it's pikuach nefesh. We could be lenient here. You can go. You know what? I'm going to go also. It's like, unfortunately, in the fake world of today, where people are permitting all of these fake leniencies to allow to kosher the pig, practically. Whether the pig is the corrupt businesses like the cash advance business, or the corrupt psaks about wigs, or the corrupt understanding of how halacha is supposed to work. A lot of corruption, unfortunately. And many of these leaders go with the flow, go to the party, because of one leniency that they create and invent after another, saying, listen, it's the king, maybe it's pikuach nefesh, after all, they have kosher food there, so they're being very welcoming, all types of strategies of the Satan to allow this to happen. Mordechai is viewed as a fanatic. Mordechai is viewed as someone that is simply, don't listen to him. He is of the old generation. He's too fanatic. He's saying that you can't do it. No, don't listen to him. So they go to the party. So that is the beginning of the story. That's the mistake that was made. Okay. But now, of course, this mistake is going to lead to a decree, a heavenly decree that comes 9 years later, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows Haman to rise to power, meteoric rise, just like Hitler, who went from nothing, zero loser, to a most powerful person in the world at the time. And this guy has the desire to destroy Am Yisrael. And then he gets the permission to destroy. So the Chazal teaches us that before Hashem issues a decree, an evil decree, a decree that's going to hurt, he already brings the cure. But without paying attention to the details, you're not going to see it. Before you got that pain that you have in your life, whether it be financial pain, loneliness, whatever other, children, marriage, whatever pain a person deals in their life, before that decree was passed, Hashem already issued a decree that is the cure. And you're only going to be able to see it if you have the right perspective. So now we can't dissect each and every single person's life right now, but we can dissect certain parts of the Megillah to see how these few details that are mentioned in the Megillah were not there for the sake of telling us a story, but rather for us to see how the hand of God works. We start off with a party. Now, when somebody has a party, they want to have a good time. They want to do all types of things, show off. But generally speaking, when somebody has a beautiful wife, typically they are very, very protective of that beautiful wife. And they don't want anybody else looking at her. In fact, many of the battles and fights and murders that happen today are over a woman. Somebody looked at her, somebody didn't look at her, somebody spoke to her the wrong way. But here, Achashverosh has this crazy idea that in order to show off how beautiful his wife is, he commands her to come and walk around naked. Who in their right mind, even if their right mind is wrong mind, would ever want such a thing? So she's beautiful, and you have her, fine. Why would you want to show that to anybody else? You want everybody else to think about her? You want why would that ever be something that anybody in their right mind would ever do? Do you think that Donald Trump would ever say to his the first lady, "Honey, I want you to show her something"? No, absolutely not. He'll demand respect for her. You have to respect her. You have to speak to her with respect, talk to her with respect, treat her with respect. The same thing goes for anybody. Even if the woman is 80 years old and not beautiful, you'd still want it. You still expect it. The last thing that any person in power would ever want is the whole world to look at his wife in her the clothing she wore when she was born. Nobody in their right mind would ever want that. Here, Achashverosh has the craziest idea, and this is not like an idea that he had his whole life, a day before, or he ever implemented before. No, this is new. When he has a party with literally tens of thousands of people. Now, of course, people are sick and they have these types of things and they want to show these types of things to other people, but never their wife. He wants to show his wife. His wife, so this obviously has to happen. Why it has to happen? Because this is part of the cure. Had this not happened, then she wouldn't have been able to reject. If she's not able to reject, he wouldn't kill her. If he wouldn't kill her, then there's no opening for Esther to become the queen. So this part of the story, as crazy as it is, has to happen. This crazy, insane thought has to happen. But not just, I want it to happen. I'm commanding for it to happen. Now, as you would have it, this Reshait, wife of Vashti, wife of Achashverosh, she has no problem with the whole thing. She is a Reshait of the highest level. But Hashem puts her in a situation where she can't do it on that day. Why? He makes her have tzarat. So her whole skin becomes like little pieces of white, like the scales of a fish, practically. And a tail grows out of her, and horn. She literally looks like a monster. Now he doesn't know this happened to her. So when she says, "No, I'm not coming," he thinks, listen, she's going against me. Now usually, anybody that's married for a long amount of time, at some point or another, you ask your spouse to do something and they say no. And it's, you're not happy about it. You want to go somewhere, you want to do something, and they absolutely, for no rhyme or reason, reject it. So you have a disagreement, maybe even an argument, but it's over. But here, Achashverosh doesn't know why she says no, doesn't care what she says no, and he's upset. She obviously has to have this thing happen to her in order for her not to be able to come, and also not to even tell him the reason of why she's not coming, because she knows that if he finds out what happened to her, for sure he's going to kill her. So she thinks maybe this is going to go away, maybe it's just a cold, maybe it's, I don't know, whatever it is, but I'll hide away from him for long enough time to figure out how to deal with this thing. But for now, I obviously can't do what he wants, even though on any other day I would do it. So this second part also has to have the hand of Hashem causing this to happen, that she can't come. But the critical part of the story, the Hashgacha Pratit here, is that in every kingdom, where you have a king and a queen, president and a first lady, whatever it is, there are helpers to both sides, servants to both sides. There's the people that are serving the king, serving the queen, and usually they act loyal to their superior, but internally, they're always looking for their own self-interest. But in general, nobody ever wants to go against one or the other. No one's going to tell the queen, listen, why don't you kill the king, or tell the king to kill the queen, because obviously they would think that, listen, why are you telling me to kill my queen? Are you going to tell me to kill my queen? Eventually you're going to kill me. But in this particular case, Achashverosh has advisors, and one of these advisors, which obviously later on we find out is Haman, has the audacity, the courage to go and tell the king, listen, Your Highness, she didn't listen to you. You know that she's going to teach all of the women of your kingdom of 127 nations also not to listen to their husbands. It's going to be a revolution. It's going to be feminism. It's going to be all of the stuff that's pretty much happened here in America and in the world for the last 4 years. All this garbage. It's going to be there. You got to kill her. Who in their right mind will have such courage to tell the king to kill his wife? Listen, there's disagreements. I am sure that there were disagreements between Achashverosh and Vashti before that day. And in fact, the Gemara tells us there was disagreements between them. Where she said, listen, I am of the lineage of Nebuchadnezzar. I am the lineage of kinghood. You are a farmer boy that found some treasure. You're not a... So they had disagreements between them before. But he never killed her. Never killed her. Never did anything. But here, today, he has this crazy desire to show off his wife. And then when she rejects, he gets upset. But not upset, oh, I'm going to kill her. He's just upset. But then one of the servants, one of the ministers says, you got to kill her. This is a critical part of the story that has to happen. It has to happen. That's the way to empty the seat in order to open the door for Esther to come. So we see the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu literally steering the wheel 9 years before Am Yisrael even knows there's a problem. Now, after all of this, we move forward. He obviously wants to get married again. And you see that Esther, who the Gemara says in Masechet Megillah is 77 years old, she's not exactly a young lady, but Hashem makes a miracle happen, where the Megillah says, everyone that looks at her finds her beautiful. How could it be? How? I mean, some people like blonde hair, brunette, red, I don't know, all types of colors and shapes and sizes. People have different tastes. It's an old saying in Hebrew, in Israel, al tam ve'al reach en ma litvakeach, on taste and smell, there's nothing to argue. Everyone has their own sense of taste, and you can't argue, listen, this smells good, this smells bad to somebody else. Your sense of smell and what you desire is different than his. You can't say, oh, this is the best food. Oh, but he doesn't like it. You don't know what you're talking about. No, he does. To him, it doesn't taste good. To her, it doesn't taste good. Whatever your taste buds are is for you. Whatever his taste buds are is theirs. You can't challenge somebody based on their taste. He finds her beautiful. You find her hideous. She finds him attractive. You find him to look more like a monster. Fine, no problem. But you cannot say, no, he's ugly. He's ugly maybe in your eyes, but to him he's not. These are certain things that people don't understand, but it's literally a part of reality. That's why when people spend an obscene amount of time and energy trying to fit this look they want to have, usually the more you spend time trying to, make yourself looking into something, the more lonely you're going to become. Why? Because when you yourself are not happy with yourself, certainly the world is going to get that impression of you. So even if you are attractive, you're going to be a repulsive person. But yet you'll see people that literally are not attractive in any way, shape, or form, especially not in comparison to those people that spend all of their energy in front of the mirror. but yet they're married happily with kids. Somebody apparently found them attractive. So here, the Megillah is telling us that everyone finds Esther beautiful. How could it be? Simple. There's something called chen. Chen is not a physical feature. Chen is a blessing from above that Hashem puts on a person in order for that person to be pleasing in the eyes of those who see it. And in the case of Esther, Hashem put the ultimate chen on her. Despite her older age, despite the fact that she was not like everybody else, anyone who saw her thought she's one of them. So the Persians that saw her, oh yeah, she's Persian, like us. The Iraqis that saw her, oh, she's Iraqi, she's like one of us. The Italians that saw her, oh, she must be Italian like us. The French that saw her, oh, couscous, hey, how are you doing? How are you? They thought she's French. Everyone thought and everybody obviously likes their own. 127 countries that Achashverosh rules, they're all in this party. They all see, everybody's there all the time. There's always people from all over the world at Achashverosh's kingdom. And everyone sees Esther, she's like them. How did you get one of us here? How did you get her from China? How did you get her from Bangladesh? How did you get her from Italy? How did you get her from America? How did you get her? Everybody finds her beautiful, including Achashverosh. Why? There's a blessing of chen. To be pleasing in the eyes of those that see you. There's actually special Teilim, Sgulot of Teilim, there a person can actually pray to have chen. Especially when they go in front of superiors or meetings, especially if it's authorities, lawsuits, things like that. You want to have what's called chen. Why? Because when people are pleased with what they look, not physical features, but you have this blessing on you, automatically the world is going to treat you differently. The world is going to treat you differently. HaKadosh Baruch Hu put this blessing on Esther to the point where she, without any of the special oils that all the other girls were doing, without all of the filthy promiscuity that all the other girls were allowing themselves to do, whether married or not married, all the other girls were doing everything and anything possible to win the heart of the king. The 18-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, the whoever, every one of them was doing everything possible to win the heart of the king. The only woman that did not take even a drop of oil or even a drop of makeup, nothing, no effort whatsoever, to win the heart of the king was Esther. And the only one that won the heart of the heart of Achashverosh was Esther. Why? Hashem put chen on her. This has to happen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did this because this has to happen in order for Esther to be the queen at the time of need 9 years later. Next part of the story. Now, every king has many servants. And no matter how good the king is, or how good the CEO is, or how good the rabbi is, or how good the leader is, there's always going to be some conniving, filthy people that want to steal something from him. Whether it's everything or some parts, there's always going to be. There's always going to be a gehazi. You could see it in modern politics without even following it. Just simply see the headlines in the news. In the one of the parts of that led to the downfall of Donald Trump after his first term was his own vice president. The guy that he took, the guy that no one even knew who he was, bichlal. No one knew he existed in the world. His own mirror didn't recognize him. Became vice president. Only to betray the guy that put him in power, and in essence started the downfall of Donald Trump and his fight for the next several years until he became president again, and so on and so forth. And you see this constantly. You see this in corporations. You see this in all small businesses, big businesses. The guy that was like a junior partner, a developer, programmer, all of a sudden puts a virus in the system or gets somebody to try to pretty much destroy the leadership and take over, become the leader. This is a constant failure in society. People are never happy with their share. They're never interested in negotiation. They're interested in hostile takeovers. That's the attitude of people. Same thing goes with rabbis. There's a shul that I went to years ago, built, 50 years. The rabbi that built it, built the community, spent his time, money, everything possible to build this place. Now he's a little older. He's maybe in his late 70s, 80s, whatever it is. And of course, his kids were supposed to be good, religious kids, rabbis, and so on. Eventually, they're supposed to take over the shul that their father built. But instead of waiting till the day comes after their father passes away, some of the kids became impatient and started fighting with the father over giving them control now, while he's alive. And the shul went from being a light in the community that was constantly growing and prospering and so on, into literally being a center of animosity, all created because of the greed of these ungrateful kids that this rabbi had, or has, and it's still going on to this day. Ultimately, lawsuits, everything. Another story that came to me, a woman that didn't spend much effort serving a Kadosh Baruch Hu in her life. Instead, she served the God of money. Gathered money her whole life. Because she justified it by the fact that she wanted to give her kids everything she didn't have when she was a kid. So her kids grew up benefiting from this hardworking mother and father who made a bunch of money in their business and so on. And the kids benefited. They grew up practically with a golden spoon in their mouth. Everything they wanted, they got, even as they grew up as adults. They got a house, they got a car, they got everything they wanted, they got. Now, of course, life goes on. The mother is older. She's now in her 70s, late 70s even. And for the first time in her life, she wants a rabbi's help. What happened, ma'am? What can I help you with? You're not exactly looking for shidduch. You're not looking for any sgulot for parnasah. What seems to be the reason you're contacting a rabbi to help you? Oh, I need you to help me with my kids. Your kids? You mean your grandkids? Infants? No, my grown kids. Your kids are in their 40s. What can I do to help your kids in their 40s? Well, they're suing me. Why are your kids suing you? Because they don't want to wait until I die to take the inheritance. They want me to give them all the money now. So much so, they started stealing the money. So now, she gathered all of this money throughout her life in order to give her kids everything they needed, in order for her to live whatever her retirement in peace. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed her who's boss. Your whole life you served money because you thought you're going to beat the system. You serve money so then you're going to have an easy life. to retire into. The exact opposite now is happening. Everything you build is being thrown in your face. The kids you spoiled and you gave everything to will become your number one enemy. The money that you accumulated will become the poison of your life. The retirement you thought you have will become the most tumultuous, horrible time of your life until the day you die. And there's literally endless stories like this that I know. This is one example I have enough to make 10 lectures about. No less than 3 hours each. And that's just part one. When a person thinks that they can live life absent of God, all they have to look forward to is the disappointments that they're going to have for all of the plans they made. But Hashem is patient. He lets person think that they're rich, think that they're comfortable, think that they're going in the right direction. And even though he gives them signs along the way to do tshuva, to return to the right path, each time they ignore, each time they press snooze, each time they go in a different direction, that's another case against them. So when the decree is passed, as the Kadosh Baruch Hu says in Tehillim, no one will be able to save you from my wrath. This is a Tehillim that we read in our prayer every Wednesday. El nekamot Hashem, el nekamot ofia. The God of vengeance is Hashem. The God of vengeance has arrived. So now, Rabotai, you have a situation where this king that rules the entire world has a couple of servants that don't like him so much. And they want to kill him. I'm sure every boss has somebody that doesn't like him. Every boss has somebody that would be happier if he wasn't there. Everybody thinks that they could do the boss's job. Everybody thinks that they could be the leader. Everybody thinks they would do a better job. In this particular case, these two losers, Bigtan Veteresh, they decide to have a conversation about this. Now, what are the chances that they're going to have a conversation about this inside the kingdom, next to the only person in the entire kingdom that understands their foreign language? Mordechai. Mordechai is part of the Sanhedrin, knew 70 languages, so certainly he knew their language. Now, anyone that's planning evil against the master, whoever the master may be, whether it be a CEO or it be a king or it be a president or whoever it is, usually they would do it somewhere away from the king so nobody overhears them. But here, they feel comfortable having it inside the kingdom without a problem. Why? Because they figure that nobody speaks their foreign language. And as a Kadosh Baruch Hu has it and designs it, he is not only they have this conversation in the kingdom, but they have it next to the only person in the entire kingdom that understands it. But even if you have a situation like this, I'm sure there's a couple of people that wanted to kill one of the presidents or one of the ministers or one of the people somewhere. I'm sure there's some people that were planning to oust one of the CEOs or whatever it is. And other people heard it. I'm sure before they had the plans against Trump, other people overheard it. I'm sure there are certain people that went against the guy from OpenAI before they ousted him, before he returned. I'm sure other people heard it. I'm sure before any one of these famous stories, whether it be the stories of Steve Jobs getting fired from his own company, Apple, or it be some of the other countless stories that I know from the years, there's always somebody else that hears it and understands the story. So what if Mordechai knows their language? Usually people overhear it, and they either join in and say, yeah, you know what? I'm in. I want him killed also. I want to take the job also. I want some of the spoils also. Usually, that's what would happen. Or, they just simply ignore it. It's like, okay, listen, guys, I'm not telling you what to do. Just don't involve me. 99.9% of the time, when people hear evil spoken about the boss, evil spoken about the leader, by some of the co-workers, by some of the the conspirators that want to destroy the leadership, either they join in or they simply ignore. Rarely will you ever have somebody that not only hears it, he's in the right place at the right time, but actually goes to the king and says, listen, Your Highness, I know that you don't know who I am. I know that you're probably not going to believe me. I know that I'm probably risking my life, either from you or from them killing me, by telling you this. But by the way, they're trying to kill you. There's no benefit for him to say it whatsoever. In fact, there's only risk. HaKadosh Baruch Hu designs it in such a way that not only do these two fools speak about the assassination of Achashverosh inside the kingdom, but they speak it next to the only person that can actually understand what they're saying and do something about it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu designs this. Why? This has to happen in order for Mordechai to go in the book. Now, of course, if somebody does something good for a leader, certainly the leader wants to say thank you. Hey, listen, you did good for me. I recently saw this clip somebody showed me. This guy that worked for a company for 40 years got a present of an old, fancy, very, very expensive car. And he was crying about it and emotional about it, how after working for 40 years for this company, he got his dream car, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. Generally speaking, somebody that's loyal to the leadership gets rewarded. But usually they get rewarded, as quickly as possible. Why? Because the king wants to incentivize others to do the same thing. You help me get this, I'm going to give you a bonus. You help me get that, I'm going to give you another bonus, and so on and so forth. I'm sure that the people that were in charge of Donald Trump's security, when they tried to assassinate him twice, I'm sure they didn't get any bonuses. Why? Most likely they were in on the plan. But if somebody would have jumped in front of the bullet, certainly they would have gotten a great position today. In fact, one of the people that got highlighted and rewarded was a guy that I guess he died as a result of it, of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and his family got rewarded for it. But the point being is that every leader that has people do something good for him, especially life-saving or career-changing or something like that, wants to reward them right away. But in this particular case, we have something unusual happen. The king confirms what Mordechai says, which, by the way, the fact that he even knows that Mordechai is the one that saved him is in itself something that's against nature. Why? Because Mordechai told this not to the king, he told this to Esther. He could have sent a letter to the king. He could have tried to go to the king directly. Nobody told to Esther, which is a huge risk. Why? Because if Esther would have been like most people, which is simply take the credit for herself, just simply saying, listen, my husband, these two people are trying to kill you. Okay, so he confirms they're trying to kill him, that's it. He gives the credit, he loves her more, he gives her another castle, that's it. Most people, you tell him, listen, do me a favor, tell your boss that he has to go do this, this, and this to save himself a big headache. Those people are going to go to the boss, say, hey, boss, by the way, we had a good idea. You should do this, this, and this. Save yourself. Oh, thank you so much. Somebody tell you about this? No. We came up with it. We just started, but we love you. That's why we help you out. People usually take the credit for themselves. Esther doesn't do that. This is also divinely inspired. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes sure that Mordechai tells this to the only person that is not going to betray him. Now, even if Esther doesn't mean to betray him, but simply just tells the king, listen, these people are trying to kill you, and she just simply forgets to mention that Mordechai, told her by accident. That doesn't happen. Better yet, what if the king is like most people? He doesn't have a book. He doesn't have a journal to remind himself of all the good people in his life. Who has such a book? Do you have such a book of all the nice people, all the things that people did for you? The rabbi saved my life. Did you write that in the book? No. My mom gave birth to me. Did you write that in the book? No. My father gave me a loan. Did you write that in the book? No. Most people don't remember anything, and sometimes they simply rely on their memory, but conveniently forget when it's necessary. Here the king, a goy king, has a special book to what? Remember all the people that did good for him. This is divinely inspired. This is something the king started many years before. And you would think, oh yeah, he's very kind, and he wants to make sure to show akarat tov to people. What he said? Well, he's a tzaddik, this guy. Chashverosh is a rasha. Chashverosh is a rasha. He's not a tzaddik. Why does he have a special book to say thank you to people? What, he needs to socialize with them? He needs them to like him? No, he's a king. He's got the top power. He doesn't need anybody to like him. He needs people to fear him. So it's not like he needs this book in order for people to like him. He's got this book. Why? Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu gave him this idea to have this book to write all types of people did good for him, because one day, one of those names out of countless names is going to matter. Why? That name is going to save the entire Jewish people. So the thought process that HaKadosh Baruch Hu instills into the mind of Achashverosh, to have this journal, to have this book that accumulates names of the few people that he wants to do good for, because they did good to him. The whole thing is for the sake of Mordechai's name appearing there one day. Now, usually, when a king gets good from somebody, when a leader gets good from somebody, right away he gives them something good. He buys them a house, gives them a car. In that case, we'll give them horses, give them a bunch of gold. In this case, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes this king that apparently spends an extra amount of effort to remember the good that people do good for him, forget to reward the very same people that are in the book. Why? You have this whole book just to remember, and you forget? Yes. Why forget? Oh, because you forgot for a week. You forgot for a month. Forgot for 6 months. Eventually you're going to remember. 9 years later, he finally remembered. 9 years you remembered? I mean, even if you remember, listen, I'm sure there's other people that have been written in this book over the 9 years. So many other people apparently are trying to kiss up to the king that it already took up so many pages that you wouldn't even remember who you forgot. 9 years later. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu designed it in such a way that no matter how many names are added to this book, and how many millions and millions of dollars are given to all of the people that are in this book because they did good for the king, there's one guy that's never going to be forgotten. It's never going to be paid until the exact moment that it matters to save Am Yisrael. Why? The cure of HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes before the decree. when a person delves, this is just the beginning of the Megillah. Imagine if we went into the entire Megillah. Literally, you have to spend a lifetime going into every detail of the story, and you realize this is not a storybook. The Megillah is not a storybook. The Megillah is showing us how to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our life today. When you're going through a crisis, when you are lonely, when you're broke, when you're missing things, when you need things, when you're struggling, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, yes, you are, and I'm the one that did it. Why did I do it? Because that's part of the cure. Yeah, but it hurts. Of course it hurts. That's the point. Because the more you hurt, the more likely you are to cry out to me. So I could finally show you, now you're calling me. Here I am. Here I am. Now I'm going to show you my cards. Just like we saw in last week's Parashat Ki Tisa, where after the golden calf, the horrible thing the Erev Rav influenced Am Yisrael to do. Either the Erev Rav worshipping the golden calf, or Am Yisrael not rebuking them. Regardless of that, everybody got punished. Some people got punished with the sword because they actually worshipped the golden calf after being warned not to. Some people were not warned and they worshipped the golden calf, so they died in the plague. But some people, they had thoughts, maybe we should join them. They didn't go and actually worship the golden calf, but they thought maybe we should go join all of these people that are celebrating idolatry. Maybe we should go join all these people that are destroying people's lives with all types of corrupt businesses. Maybe we should join all of these people that are walking around and acting immodestly. It looks like fun. All of those people that thought that the Reshaim were right, when they drank the bitter waters that Moshe Rabbeinu gave them, they died, just like the Sotah. But after all of this transpired, Moshe Rabbeinu is pleading for Am Yisrael, telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please don't destroy them. Don't destroy them. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, because you fought for Am Yisrael, because you spoke good about my kids, even though I told you I'll destroy them and start a whole new nation from you, you don't lose out of the whole thing. But you said, no, Hashem, if you're going to destroy them, destroy me first. They're kids, they're foolish, but they're still your kids. Don't destroy them. If you destroy them, destroy me first. Because you did that, my little Moshe Rabbeinu, because you did that, I'm going to give you something that no man has ever had before or after. He had the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the light of the Shekhinah on his face. That's the reason why his face shone so much, because he defended Am Yisrael at a time there was no argument to defend Am Yisrael. Who is he defending Am Yisrael for? He's defending against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, of course, the whole thing was a test, but Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know it's a test. And after that, Moshe Rabbeinu says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, since I passed the test, you want to give me a gift? Show me your honor. Show me your honor. Show me how you run this world. Show me how you run this world, how you do what you do. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu, you can see my back, but you can't see my front, can't see my face. What does that mean? Hashem doesn't have a face, doesn't have a back. Not like the heretics say that he has an arm, he has an. Anyone that says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has physical features is 100% amin and apikos, has no share of the world to come. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, you can see my back, meaning everything I've already done and completed. What happened in the generation of Noach, what happened to Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, why I did what I did, all that stuff I can show you. But the future, my face, the future, you're not going to understand. I showed you Rabbi Akiva, I showed you his life, I showed you his Baal Tshuva, I showed you how he became Gdol Ador, and 120 years old, he has tens of thousands of students. He loses everything, rebuilds everything. He's the greatest. And then the Goyim slaughter him and sell his meat in the market. You're not going to understand why I did what I did. You're not going to understand because I haven't finished the job yet. But everything I already finished, everything I did in the past, I can show you that and you can understand. Here HaKadosh Baruch Hu is showing us in the Megillah, literally small little details that are told like a simple story, but in reality the details that are in there are simply life-changing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is showing us, look, I hid my face, I hid myself in the entire Megillah, but in reality, if you pay attention, I am in every single letter, every single word, every single sentence, every single paragraph, every single event. There had to be divine inspiration for each and every single event to happen in order for the story to be what it is. And the same concept goes into our life. Why is he saying this, all of this in the Megillah where you don't see his name? Because sometimes when you're dealing with hell in your life and you're lonely and you're miserable and you're in pain and you're suffering and whatever you're dealing with in your life and you feel alone, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, look, I wasn't in the Megillah, but if you studied it, you saw me all over the place. You don't feel me in your life, that's because you're not looking for me in the right place. You're not looking for me. You're looking elsewhere. You're looking for something new. You're looking for something far. You're looking for something over the mountains and across the ocean. But in reality, I'm right in front of you. And because you are not looking, you're not finding, and you're finding yourself alone. But if you look in the right place with the right perspective and realize that it's all in your hands, it's all in your lips, it's all in your heart because I put it in there at Mount Sinai. I put it in there before the evil decree came. The cure already existed before the decree. And all I'm asking you to do is cry out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and believe that He's with you. Because the moment you feel like you don't have HaKadosh Baruch Hu with you, you have just nullified the entire Torah. It's worse than any possible thing that you can ever do. That's why Avodah Zarah is so horrible. It's believing in a nothing. It's replacing everything, replacing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the everything of everything with absolutely nothing. And the same thing goes when a person does not believe that Hashem is with them, when a person does not believe that Hashem is helping them, when a person does not believe that Hashem is the one that's doing every single thing that's in their life. When you do not feel Hashem, you are violating your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the whole purpose of this Seitil Katan is to put us in the right perspective to look at the Torah and realize that's where God is. You're not going to find it anywhere else better than you're going to find it in the Torah. You don't need a different this and a different that. It's right in front of you. But if you do not have the right perspective, even if you read 1,000,000 books and you watched 1,000,000 videos and you spoke to 1,000,000 people, if you're looking in the wrong place, you're not going to find it. If you read the Megillah 1,000 times, but you don't look at the details, the few small details we just simply told you today, you wouldn't know that Hashem was even part of all of that. You would think this just part of life happened. Part of life happened that two people wanted to kill Achashverosh, and it happened to be a coincidence that Mordechai heard it, and it happened to be a coincidence that he understood their language, and it happened to be a coincidence that he told the king, and it happened to be a coincidence that this happened and that happened. It's all big coincidence. There is no coincidence. It's all divinely inspired. It's all divinely structured. It's all drawn. Just like when you go to the aquarium, you see the different beautiful fish. This one has this shape, and that one has that shape, and this one has these colors, and that one has that colors. And then you go to a different species of animals, and you see they have different colors and different shapes. And why did Hashem have all of this stuff? Why do you need so many different types of fish and so many different types of carnivores and so many different types of land animals and flying animals and crawling animals? What do you need all of this stuff? What do you need all these colors for? What do you need all of these different shapes for? For what? Just have one or two different animals, one or two different looking types of people, and that's it. No, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, just like you cannot count the different types of species that are out there, and the different shapes and sizes and colors, and all of the beauty that I put in this artwork you call the world, you're certainly not going to ever be able to see and think just like a Kadosh Baruch Hu thinks, because my mind does not work like your mind. My thoughts do not work like your thoughts. Just like you cannot even quantify the amount of things, the variety of things that a Kadosh Baruch Hu has put into this world. Literally, you go to an aquarium, you go to a zoo, you go and see nature, you see the different flowers, the different butterflies, different things that are in the world. You see literally there's an infinite amount of variety in the world that a Kadosh Baruch Hu has literally drawn, and everything is beautiful. And we cannot even quantify how much it is there is. You just look at the human body. You see how many different types of cells and how many different jobs each one has. And if one of them does not do his job, the whole system breaks. Literally, the amount of structure that you have, the amount of intelligent design you have in the smallest cell is literally infinite. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to us, just like you cannot understand the infinite impact that the smallest cell can have on your life, the smallest butterfly can have on your life, the smallest zebra or fish or whatever it is that's out, you simply cannot understand how big the world is. You're never going to be able to understand how big HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. But if you look for him, you will find him. And you will find him in your language and in your heart and in your way that you need him to be, just like the Tzeitir Katan says. If you review your connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through his Torah every single day, and you look at it like a brand new kid, like a baby, like the cheruvim, the cherubs that were on top of the Aron HaKodesh. They're two little kids. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants Am Yisrael to be like two little kids that are crying to Hashem. They want more answers, but kids want all answers. They always ask for more answers. Adults think they know everything, but kids want answers. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, if you're going to look at my Torah every single day like it's brand new, like you've never seen it before, even if you've read this book 1,000 times, and you review it every single day, and you look at it from your language, and you try to sanctify yourself every single day, first and foremost by knowing you have to sanctify yourself, and number two, by staying away from all the immorality, you will find a Kadosh Baruch Hu in the deepest of the deepest problems and blessings that you have. But if you can't see Hashem, it's all because you haven't done any of this. You think you know it all. You think you did it all. You think you looked everything. You looked everywhere, and you couldn't find. It's like going to the ocean and standing on the beach and saying that you can't find sand. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere. But if you can't find him, it's because you didn't do what the Tzeitir Katan says. You came in there thinking you know everything, thinking you did everything, and therefore there's no hope. You're right. With that kind of attitude, there is no hope. But if you look at what the Chachamim are telling us, hope is your decision. You look at the Torah the way you're supposed to look at it, and you'll see Hashem everywhere. Just like we saw Hashem in so many places, just in the first few verses of Megillat Esther. Imagine if we had the time to go to the entire Megillah, line by line, word by word, how many more places we can find Hashem in. Imagine you went and did the same exercise in your life. Line by line, day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute. How many places you will find Hashem. So the only one that agrees with you that Hashem is not there in your problems, in your difficulties, is the Satan that instilled that argument in your mind. Because he's trying to convince you that you're alone, and therefore you should leave everything and go in a different direction. If you're listening to this, it's because the Kadosh Baruch Hu has mercy on you and is trying to remind you it's not too late to turn back around and go in the right direction. And Be'ezrat Hashem, you do. Thank you very much for learning with me. Be'ezrat Hashem, we will all succeed in getting and staying on the right path with Hashem, getting closer and closer to Him every single day, and only growing each day with the same right path that we've been in, and finding even greater diamonds on that same path. May Hashem bless all of you to succeed in that journey, and Be'ezrat Hashem will continue to show more and more people the same thing. Anyone that wants to support and help the organization, whether it's the distributions that we have, the books we're publishing, all the amazing things that the organization is doing, fighting the different battles, you could donate on be'ezrathashem.org. And for those of you that are asking about some of the channels that have been taken down as a result of the whole hack, the kids channel, the Tshuva music channel, the Chinese channel, and also the Netherlands channel, those we still haven't been able to get back yet, but Be'ezrat Hashem, we have a plan in motion to get something out, Be'ezrat Hashem, very, very soon. So we're still working on it, but hopefully we'll have some type of results in the coming week or two, Be'ezrat Hashem, if not sooner. Skol mitzvot, bracha v'atzlacha, and Be'ezrat Hashem will learn again soon. Kol tuv.